No, it's great. Here's what's interesting. Because I wanted to move on to Kamala Harris. It's really weird when you have leadership that decides that they're going to talk about this issue as if it is the norm. Again, Kamala Harris, in this case, she gaslights for groomers because she refers to DeSantis's law where you can't use this indoctrination in pre-K to third grade. I'm talking about transgender indoctrination and talking about, remember, these are like the youngest of youngest children, and it seems babies basically. And we have a clip from Kamala Harris talking about this, and here it is.
So these are issues that impact young people because, as we all know, your right to vote and the action of voting unlocks all the other rights, including same-sex marriage, including whether we're going to stand up against a law that says don't say gay, basically restricting kindergarten through third grade teachers in Florida to be able to love openly and teach what they believe is important for people to understand.
Yeah. So can you believe this? So it's
oh boy.
Oh, let's hear it, Jana. Come on.
Listen, you know what? They don't get to teach openly what they believe in.
Exactly.
That 100% is a problem. They get to teach what is part of the curriculum within reason, because I think there are some things, I caveat that because there are some curriculum or standards that come from the state where we live that need to change. And certainly we need some advocates to go in support of that change. But that is completely inappropriate because that conflicts with, a family's belief system, their values, their religion, all of those things. That's okay. That's it. I can't even say anymore.
But I have to add to that before I go to Melissa. I think it's really interesting how you frame that because it makes perfect sense in that. And it's very principled, which is your child's in a classroom. There's a teacher. There's someone in authority. And the teacher is making it about them. They're making the curriculum about them, which is because that's what Kamala Harris was saying. The teacher should have a right to talk about themselves.
If that's the case, then let's talk about all the religion. How is that any different? Because it's the same thing. You don't think that there are some parents out here, maybe they are not religious, or they want to wait and their children get to grow up and then experience religion, but that's not something. But we put that in, and I bet you there's going to be a whole different set of people that have a problem.
Absolutely. Melissa.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris.
Well, same reaction. School is not about what you think as a teacher. Okay, that's not what we're here for. Teach science, teach math, right? That's crazy. But also, she had said in there that they need to teach what they feel, and so that everybody feels like loved or something. No, I don't think so at all. Also, when you're talking about little children, who are you to say what that child needs? You have no idea what that child needs. And I mean, to Jana's point, the family does have a say, because if the family didn't have the say, there wouldn't be parents, right? We would pop these babies out. We would hand them off to the government and say, good luck. But that's not what happens, or it shouldn't. Right. So who is the public school system to say, so then I have to worry every teacher my child has, which I do. Okay. I research every teacher my child has, because I am worried about the belief systems. But why can't it just go back to, guess what, children? Love everybody. Just love everybody. Why do we have to say, love this person because? Which is what they've now ingrained in children. I love this person because. I have to love that person because. What?
And you know what? Honestly, I don't really even think the kids have an issue here. I don't think it's the kids. I really think it's
they do
the adults.
now.
Well, they do now. Yeah, they totally do now. But I really do. I think it's more so the adults. And listen, the goal is to educate our children, to help them, with critical thinking skills. So it's also, it's not just about math and reading and science. It's all of those things. And Melissa knows this, but, wanted to add that we also know that it's about helping children, develop good critical thinking skills, put them in, allow their brain to work and to think about situations that they might be in and how they could react. And that's all part of growing. And it's an important part of education and
learning how to think versus learning what to think.
Yeah.
100%.
Which is really unique, because there was a period of time when there was one movement in America in the 1960s that was very much for teaching people critical thinking skills and teaching them how to think, not what to think. And then fast forward, it's completely flipped without talking about both sides. And I also want to get your impression and thoughts about implementing and introducing this idea of pronouns in K to 12. We have Kamala Harris this week, who was at an event, and she was introducing herself, which is kind of funny because everybody knows who she is. And she's introducing herself in front of everyone around the round table and decides to introduce herself that she's a woman and with her pronouns. It is really weird. We have that clip, and here it is.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome these leaders for coming in to have this very important discussion about some of the most pressing issues of our time. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit. And
so on Mark and the Millennials, I always make it a point to do my best to not curse. But my first reaction is like, no shit. Really? You're a woman wearing a blue suit and you're vice president? Really? I didn't know that.
Right.
I mean, what am I missing here? And how is that going to confuse children being moms?
Well, first of all, I want to say, in case it's not obvious, I am a woman also, but I am identifying as 21 years old. And Melissa, we've already had this conversation, and Melissa is rich. So we
totally
are the dynamic
rich.
duo. Okay.
Yes.
I'm young. She's rich. That's where we are.
And I'm identifying as 6'4", Has this happened in any of the public school systems that you're aware of where you've heard children, whether they're your children or others, say, hey, guess what? We're doing this whole pronoun thing.
We have it on our desks in our schools in this county.
What does that mean?
The teachers put it on their desk. You can find it in email signatures. The teachers are emailing their students, and students, even there are some classrooms in this county where students that have designated desks, so we're talking elementary school, are displaying their pronouns on their desk in elementary school. Now, let me just tell you, elementary school, if my child comes home this year and tells me that she has she, her on her desk, I can tell you right now, this mom is going to have a real big issue, because in third grade, I'm going to say, no shit, you're she, her. Excuse me. You just said you don't
it's
cuss.
Okay.
But obviously you're she, her because you have a vagina, and you know you have a vagina because we talk a lot about body safety here. And in your whole thing about confusing children, okay, number one with Kamala, why is she now? We've gotten so far away from content of your character. I mean, that seems like a whole nother lifetime ago. She's now describing what she is physically wearing. Now, are these for the blind people? And if so, okay, I'll buy into that. You want these people to have an immersive experience with you. So it's important in this moment for them to know you're wearing a blue suit. Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy. But for children to now feel like my kids just learned how to spell their full name, and now they have to also put she, her on their papers. I don't think so. I mean, can we just get them reading? Because my kids are 2 years behind.
Oh, from the pandemic. Absolutely.
So could we maybe
Nationwide.
fast forward to the whole reading thing before you are now trying to tell them they have a pronoun they have to remember?
And I gotta wonder, like, if the teachers, first of all, is this required? Is this required by statute? Did some politicians say you've got to start introducing pronouns into the public school system?
No,
or
not that I'm aware of.
Or is it just because, some teachers getting their jollies off of and to be fair, most teachers are great teachers, but all it takes is a few really bad ones to introduce this into the classroom.
Well, it's no different than offering up rainbow stickers to every student in your classroom, or posting rainbow stickers all over a school that this is a safe space, a rainbow person safe space. Where are the safe spaces for just all the children? Why do you have to fit into, one of these pockets of or groups? What, just let the kids be kids, please.
We know it's not. What's interesting about that is this. First of all, brilliant point about dividing people into groups and saying you have to belong to a group in order to feel safe, which is just restating what you said. What I find interesting is, and I know this firsthand, is that a very, very good teacher in the system, and by the way, podcast listeners, this is nationwide. The teacher was told, you must discontinue the Republican Club in high school. You must discontinue it. And remember, the Republican Club was during lunchtime. So it was not during learning time. It was during lunchtime. So kids could go to the classroom. They could eat their lunch in the Republican Club. They could talk about stuff that they wanted to talk about. And to be fair to the podcast listeners, I'm 100% all for there being a Democrat club and an independent club and a libertarian club, of course, okay? But the interesting thing is that we've said instead that you have to fit into these other categories, which are all about social justice type things, or worse. And by worse, I mean trying to sexualize and groom children. But you can't have these other clubs that actually are talking about history and current affairs and social studies, these kinds of things.
Well, and why wouldn't we want to have all of those clubs? Because you know what? It's so important. Voting is really important. I'll agree with the vice president. That is 100%. It is our right, and it's so important. So why not educate our high schoolers and help them understand why their vote, and being involved and being educated and understanding current events and things that are happening and locally and nationally are so important, and why you carry that into your adult life and how it benefits you. That's crazy.
But I think that's why this movement, this LGBTQ movement, has been so successful. And especially when you're targeting kids in the upper elementary, middle school area, because that is the point in a child's life where they are trying to figure out where they belong. And so now you have this group that says, well, we accept everybody. And I know you talked about this recently on one of your podcasts, Mark, where, you know, this definition now of cisgender. So now you're giving the kid, I was born a girl and I believe I'm a girl and I hopefully act like a girl most of the time.
You're certainly biologically a woman.
I'm a biological woman.
That's
I
immutable.
believe that. And I believe that. Okay. So that means now I'm cisgender. So they've created this circle that's now
I'm gonna have to start taking notes.
I know that's so big that I think about my daughter that's about to go in middle school, and I know she's already fighting with who she's going to be in the world. And we talk a lot about, you know, how you act gives everybody around you an idea of who you are, right? Without saying anything, how you act. So now I know she's going to be fighting, like, where do I belong? And then she's going to find this rainbow on the wall. And somebody's going to say, are you cisgender? And she's going to be like, what's that?
Right,
oh, well,
what
it
the
means
heck
you were
is
born a
cisgender?
girl and you think you're a girl. And she'll be like, yeah, I'm cisgender. And then next thing I know, she's in the prison club.